every time I talk about this, there are two things that haunt me. The first one is that on February 1st, 1960, 4 students from A&T sat down at a lunch counter and demanded to be served. And here we are in 2009. The same black students can sit down at a lunch counter and be welcome, and they can't read the menu. And I want to know, how did we allow this to happen? And the second thing is, in 1978, Ron Edmonds said, we can, whenever and wherever we choose, successfully teach all children whose schooling is of interest to us. We already know more than we need to know to accomplish that task. Whether or not we do it must finally depend upon how we feel about the fact that we have not done it so far. And so fundamentally what we're talking about, folks, is political will. What we're talking about is how we feel about other people's children. And so, I mean, I'm all for race to the top. I applaud the Secretary and the President, both of whom I support and admire for what they're doing. But at the end of the day, my question is, in whose interests is this race going to be conducted? Because at the end of the day, the question is, who is really going to benefit from race to the top? And I see all of these great ideas, and I really support the work that Tim has done. But to me, the question is, are you going to change the power relationships that exist in these school districts and in these communities? Because if you're going to leave the same people in charge who've been in charge, how is it that we somehow expect that all of a sudden the interests of poor children is going to be a paramount concern to them? I don't think so. And I think we're fooling ourselves, because these people are going to go after the money like they always do. And I can tell you for sure that one thing that school districts are good at is sucking up reform. And when they get through sucking it up, it ain't going to look nothing like what you thought it was, because that's what they do. And so, I mean, you know, I admire people who, and I particularly admire people like Dr. Hall, who stay at this for like year after year after year. But I just got to say that, you know, for most situations, there has to be a way to fundamentally alter the structures, the processes, and most important, the organized interests that protect things that we know do not help kids. So when people say, well, what do you think should be done? Well, I just want to propose, in addition to working to change the existing structure, I also want to put in a word for creating alternative structures. And so to me, charter schools represent the possibility of alternative structures. Because what it does is it gives people an opportunity to create new schools and to create ways to bring new people into the space, as people say these days, into the space to do something different. But where race and class comes into all of this is education is about liberation. And I believe that people can't be liberated if they're not in the process. And so one of the things that we've got to ensure is that as we create new schools, high-performing schools, that we have to also focus in on trying to make sure that black and brown people are in charge of some of these schools, and that they get access to some of the social capital that white people get access to as you try to develop these schools. Because if 10, 15 years from now we look at the charter sector And I want you all to know and tell me and other people know this. I mean, people like, Feinberg and David and all the people at KIPP and Uncommon, these are all friends of mine. But I want to be real clear. If at the end of the day, the only great schools and great school networks are run by white people, this movement will be a failure. And if we don't figure out a way to ensure that that does not happen, trust me, there's going to be a rebellion against these schools by the very communities that these schools are set up to serve. The second thing I'm going to say, and this, you cannot change this stuff ultimately without giving low-income and working-class people the power to choose. The hypocrisy about choice is stunning. You go into all of these rooms where people talk about how important these poor kids are, et cetera, et cetera. Many of these people, their kids are taken care of. But when you start talking about, well, how about giving low-income and working-class people some of these choice? Everybody got all of these reasons why you can't do that.